Hello, my friends, and welcome. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever stood in the middle of a room, completely blanking on why you walked in there in the first place? Or perhaps you've been mid-sentence, sharing a story with a loved one, and a name you've known for 40 years, just evaporates from your mind. It's a frustrating, sometimes even frightening, experience. We often laugh it off as a senior moment, but deep down, there's a quiet whisper of a question, isn't there? A little tug of anxiety. It's not just about forgetting your keys. It's about the fear of losing your edge, your sharpness. It's the fear of that vibrant, colorful world inside your mind slowly fading to gray. It's the dread of becoming less you. The fear of not being able to manage your own affairs, of becoming a worry to your children instead of a source of wisdom. For years, we've been given the same advice. Eat well, stay active, and get plenty of fruits and vegetables. It's the gospel of modern health. And for the most part, it's good advice. But what if I were to tell you that some of the very fruits we reach for, thinking we're making the absolute best choice for our health, could be quietly contributing to this mental fog? What if certain healthy foods are creating a storm of inflammation and damage inside the most delicate and vital blood vessels in our entire body, the ones that feed our brain? Today, I am begging you to listen, because we are going to talk about something crucial that most health advice simply glosses over. We will identify 5 popular fruits that, because of their unique effect on our blood sugar, can, over time, lead to a dangerous stiffening and clogging of our brain arteries. By the end of this video, you will not only know which fruits to be mindful of, but you will understand the why behind it, empowering you to protect your precious mind for all the years to come. Now, I know this idea might feel jarring. It might even go against decades of advice you've trusted. Stop eating certain fruits, but they're natural. They're full of vitamins. And you are right to be skeptical. It's good to question. That's why we're not just going to talk about what to avoid, but we're going to dive deep into the why. Before we get into our first fruit, I want to extend an invitation. This channel isn't just me talking at you. It's a place for us to build a community, to support each other on this journey. If that sounds like something you'd value, please take a moment to click that red subscribe button. And just as importantly, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, please share with me, what is the #1 health concern on your mind right now? Is it memory, mobility, heart health? Your answers are incredibly valuable and help me make sure we're always talking about what matters most to you. Now, let's pull back the curtain on this hidden enemy. To understand how a simple fruit can impact our brain, we first need to understand a powerful, silent process happening inside our bodies every single day. It's a process that begins on our plate but can end in the delicate arteries of our mind. The first fruit we need to place under the microscope is one that many of us love for its convenience and sweetness. It's often seen as the perfect, healthy, bite-sized snack. We're talking about grapes. Now, please hear me when I say this. Grapes are not pure evil. They contain beneficial compounds, like resveratrol in the skins of red and purple grapes, which is a powerful antioxidant. They offer hydration and some essential vitamins. So the issue isn't that grapes are inherently bad, but rather that the way we consume them and their fundamental composition can create a perfect storm for our blood sugar. Here's the science made simple. Every food that contains carbohydrates is ranked on something called the glycemic index, or GI. Think of the glycemic index as a speed rating. It tells us how quickly the sugar from that food will hit our bloodstream. Pure glucose is a 100 on this scale. It's like a rocket. On the other end, you have foods with lots of fiber, like beans or broccoli, which are like a slow-moving train, releasing sugar gradually and gently. Grapes, particularly when eaten in the large quantities we're accustomed to, have a moderately high glycemic index. They are little sacks of sugar water with relatively little fiber to slow down their absorption. When you eat a big bowl of them, you are essentially flooding your system with sugar. Imagine your bloodstream is a calm, gently flowing river. Eating a handful of almonds is like adding a small, steady stream of water to it. The river level rises slightly, but it's manageable. Eating a big bowl of grapes, however, is like opening a fire hose and blasting it into that river. Suddenly, there's a flash flood. Your body, in its wisdom, senses this emergency. Your pancreas scrambles to release a tidal wave of a hormone called insulin. Insulin is the traffic cop for sugar. Its job is to rush into the bloodstream and direct all that excess sugar out of the river and into your cells for energy. And it's very effective. But this emergency response comes at a cost. First, this huge insulin surge often overcorrects, pulling too much sugar out of the blood. This leads to the infamous sugar crash about an hour or two later, leaving you feeling tired, foggy, and irritable, and often craving more sugar. But the more insidious problem, the one that relates directly to our brain arteries, is something called glycation. When there's that much excess sugar floating in your bloodstream before insulin can clear it all away, the sugar molecules start to stick to things they shouldn't, particularly proteins and fats. This process creates harmful compounds called advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. I want you to think of AGEs as tiny, microscopic drops of superglue. Imagine the lining of your arteries, especially those delicate, intricate arteries leading to your brain. They need to be soft, flexible, and pliable to manage blood flow. But when these AGEs form, they start gluing the artery walls. They cause the tissues to become stiff, brittle, and inflamed. This damage creates a rough surface where plaque can more easily build up, narrowing the passageway. It's like turning a soft, flexible garden hose into a hard, brittle, rusty pipe. Over years and decades, this process slowly reduces the vital flow of oxygen-rich blood to your brain cells. Let's put this in a real-world scenario. Picture John. He's recently retired, trying to eat healthier. Every evening, while watching the news, he swaps his old habit of potato chips for a big bowl of beautiful green grapes. He feels virtuous. He thinks he's doing his body a favor. But he doesn't just eat 5 or 10. He mindlessly eats the whole bowl over the course of an hour. An hour later, he feels that familiar wave of fatigue and finds it hard to concentrate on his book. He chalks it up to getting older. But what's really happening is that nightly flood of sugar is creating those AGEs, slowly but surely stiffening the very vessels responsible for keeping his mind sharp. So, what's the solution? It is not to declare war on grapes. It's to be smarter about them. The key is moderation and pairing. Instead of a large bowl, limit yourself to a small, cupped handful. And never eat them alone on an empty stomach. This is critical. Instead, practice the buddy system. Pair that small portion of grapes with a source of healthy fat or protein, like a few walnuts, a small piece of cheese, or a spoonful of plain Greek yogurt. The fat and protein act as a buffer, dramatically slowing down the absorption of the sugar and preventing that dangerous spike. By doing this, you turn the fire hose into a gentle stream, giving your body a chance to process the sugar without the panic and without forming those dangerous AGEs. Now that we see how an innocent-looking snack can trigger this internal process, let's turn our attention to a fruit that many consider a symbol of health itself, often found in our breakfast bowls and smoothies. This next one may truly surprise you. The second fruit on our list is a titan of the breakfast table, a lunchbox staple, and the go-to source of potassium for millions. It's celebrated for its convenience, its creamy texture, and its ability to provide a quick burst of energy. We are talking about the banana. Again, I want to be crystal clear. Bananas are packed with nutrients. They offer potassium, which is vital for heart health and blood pressure regulation, as well as vitamin B6 and vitamin C. So why on earth is this beloved fruit on our list? The danger lies not in the banana itself, but in its ripeness and, as with the grapes, the context in which we eat it. Here's a fascinating piece of science that you may not know. The glycemic index of a banana changes dramatically as it ripens. A banana that is still slightly green on the ends has a much higher amount of what's called resistant starch. This type of starch, as its name implies, resists digestion. It acts more like fiber, passing through your system slowly and causing only a very gentle rise in blood sugar. It has a GI of around 30 to 40, which is fantastic. However, as a banana ripens, turning from green to yellow, and then developing those familiar brown sugar spots, a transformation occurs. Enzymes within the fruit work to break down that complex, resistant starch into simple, readily available sugars. That sweet, soft, delicious banana that is so easy to mash and eat has had its starches converted. Its glycemic index can jump as high as 60 or 70. Eating a very ripe banana, especially by itself, is like eating a candy bar from nature. Let's go back to our river analogy. Eating a slightly green banana is like that gentle, steady stream. Eating a soft, spotty banana is like opening that fire hose again. The body responds with the same insulin panic, the same potential for a crash, and most importantly for our brain arteries, the same opportunity for those sticky edges, that microscopic superglue, to form and start stiffening those vital pathways. Let's imagine a lovely woman named Mary. Mary is in her late 60s and is determined to stay healthy and active for her grandkids. Every morning, she starts her day with what she believes is the perfect breakfast: a bowl of cornflakes, a sliced ripe banana on top, and a splash of skim milk. She feels she's hitting all the marks: whole grains, fruit, and dairy. But by 10:30 a.m., she hits a wall. A wave of exhaustion washes over her, her mind feels fuzzy, and she struggles to focus on her crossword puzzle. She thinks, "Oh, I'm just not a morning person anymore," or "my energy just isn't what it used to be." What Mary doesn't realize is that her virtuous breakfast is actually a high glycemic trap. The combination of the cornflakes, which have a very high GI, and the ripe banana creates a massive sugar surge. Her body releases a huge wave of insulin to cope, and the resulting blood sugar crash is what leaves her feeling so drained and foggy. More than that, this daily sugar flood is contributing to that slow, silent process of glycation, hardening the very arteries she needs to stay sharp and engaged for those grandkids. It's a classic case of hidden sabotage, where the perceived healthy choice is having the opposite effect. So, what is Mary to do? What are we to do? We don't have to banish bananas. We just need to be strategic. First, choose your banana wisely. If you're going to eat it on its own as a quick snack, opt for one that is still firm and more yellow than brown. A little bit of green at the stem is a good sign. Second, and even more powerfully, embrace the buddy system here as well. If you love a ripe banana, never eat it naked. Clothe it with fats and protein. Slice it over a bowl of full-fat Greek yogurt with a sprinkle of walnuts. Mash half a banana and spread it on a piece of high-fiber toast with a generous smear of almond or peanut butter. Blend it into a smoothie that also contains protein powder, chia seeds, or a chunk of avocado. These buddies act as a buffer, a brake pedal for the sugar, ensuring a much slower, gentler release into your bloodstream. By making this simple switch, Mary could transform her breakfast from a brain-draining trap into a source of steady, sustained energy that protects her arteries for the long run. Now, from the everyday breakfast staple, let's travel to the tropics for our third fruit. This one is the crown jewel of many fruit salads and summertime drinks, but its sweet, tangy flesh hides a surprisingly potent effect on our blood sugar. We're talking about pineapple. Pineapple is a delicious and celebrated fruit, and for good reason. It's the only major dietary source of an enzyme called bromelain, which has powerful anti-inflammatory properties and can aid in digestion. It's also loaded with vitamin C and manganese, an essential mineral for bone health and metabolism. So once again, we are not villainizing the fruit itself, but we are shining a light on its powerful and often underestimated impact on our blood sugar, which is the crux of our conversation today about brain artery health. Fresh pineapple has a glycemic index that can range from the mid-50s to the mid-60s, placing it squarely in the medium to high category. While it does contain fiber, its high concentration of natural sugars, sucrose, fructose, and glucose, means it can still deliver a significant sugar load to your system, especially when consumed in large quantities or in certain forms. Let's revisit our fire hose into the river analogy. A few chunks of fresh pineapple are manageable for your system. But think about how pineapple is often consumed. We see it in big spears at a summer barbecue, in large glasses of juice, or as the main ingredient in a healthy smoothie. In these scenarios, you're consuming a very large amount of sugar in a very short period. The fire hose is on full blast. Your pancreas springs into action, releasing that flood of insulin to manage the sugar crisis. And as we've established, this isn't just about the temporary energy crash that follows. It's about that period where excess sugar circulates freely in your bloodstream, a prime opportunity for it to bind with proteins and create those destructive advanced glycation end products, the ages that are like microscopic rust on the inside of our delicate brain arteries. This glycation process contributes to inflammation, stiffness, and ultimately, a reduced capacity for blood to nourish our precious brain cells. Let's create a scenario around this. Consider George, a 72-year-old man who enjoys his weekly golf game with friends. He recently read a magazine article about the benefits of bromelain for joint pain and decided to start his day with a big glass of pineapple juice, thinking it would help with his arthritis and be a healthy choice. He often buys the canned juice for convenience. But he's noticed that by the third or fourth hole of his golf game, his focus wavers. He misses easy putts he'd normally make, and he feels an uncharacteristic irritability and fatigue setting in. He attributes it to the heat or a poor night's sleep. But here's what's really happening. The pineapple juice, especially the canned variety, is a sugar bomb. The juicing process removes almost all the beneficial fiber, and canned juices often contain added sugars, sending the glycemic index soaring. George is starting his day with a massive sugar spike. The subsequent insulin rush and blood sugar crash are hitting him right in the middle of his golf game, wrecking his concentration and energy levels. On a deeper level, this daily habit is accelerating the glycation process, undermining the very cognitive sharpness he needs to enjoy his favorite pastime. He thinks he's fighting inflammation with bromelain, but he's actually fueling a different, more dangerous kind of systemic inflammation with sugar. The solution, as always, is not elimination, but intelligence. If you love pineapple, please enjoy it, but do so with awareness. First, always choose fresh pineapple over canned or juiced. The fiber in the fresh fruit is your ally. It helps slow down sugar absorption. Second, portion size is everything. A small cup of pineapple chunks is a treat. A massive bowl is a metabolic challenge. And third, use the buddy system with religious fervor here. Pineapple pairs wonderfully with healthy fats that can buffer its sugar load. Think about a tropical parfait with full-fat coconut yogurt and macadamia nuts. Or enjoy a few chunks of pineapple alongside a piece of grilled chicken or fish. This combination of protein, fat, and the fruit's fiber creates a balanced team that works with your body, not against it. By making these changes, George can still get the benefits of bromelain without inadvertently sabotaging his brain health and his golf game. Having navigated the tropics, our fourth fruit brings us back to something a bit more earthy and common, often dried and touted as a fantastic source of fiber. But in its dried form, it becomes a wolf in sheep's clothing. This particular food is often lauded in health circles as a whole food sweetener, a fantastic source of fiber, and a perfect replacement for refined sugar in baking. We're talking about dates. Here lies one of the most clever traps in modern, healthy eating. We see dates, often the large, luscious medjool variety, and we think natural, fiber, potassium, magnesium, all of which is true. But we fail to account for a simple, powerful process: dehydration. A date is simply a grape that has had almost all its water removed. When you remove the water, you are left with an incredibly dense, concentrated package of sugar. To call a date a fruit is technically correct, but metabolically, it's more accurate to think of it as nature's candy. The glycemic index of dates is surprisingly high, often landing in the mid-60s, but some studies show certain varieties can soar much higher, sometimes approaching the level of pure glucose. The fiber in the date does its best to help, but it's often overwhelmed by the sheer density of the sugar it contains. Let's refine our analogy. If a grape is a water balloon filled with sugary water, a date is a dense, sticky cube of caramel. When you eat even just 2 or 3 large dates on their own, you are not sipping from a fire hose. You are injecting a thick syrup directly into your bloodstream. The metabolic panic is instantaneous and severe. The pancreas works overtime, pumping out insulin. And in that chaotic environment, the formation of those destructive agents, our microscopic superglue, goes into overdrive. The stickiness of the date on your fingers is a perfect visual for what its sugar does inside your arteries. It's a sticky situation. Over time, this repeated exposure contributes to making your brain's vital supply line stiff, inflamed, and less efficient. This is the very definition of a hidden enemy, because it wears the perfect disguise of health and natural virtue. Let's imagine a woman named Carol. Carol is a vibrant 68-year-old who has taken up baking as a hobby. She's health-conscious and has recently discovered recipes for sugar-free treats. Her signature dish is a batch of oat bran muffins sweetened only with date paste. She makes it by blending 10 medjool dates with a bit of water. She feels incredibly proud, serving these healthy muffins to her friends and enjoying one herself as a 3 p.m. snack to get her through the afternoon slump. But a strange thing happens. About an hour after her healthy muffin, Carol's energy plummets. Her mind feels cloudy. She has trouble focusing on her book club novel, and that afternoon slump she was trying to beat comes back with a vengeance. She can't understand it. There's no white sugar, no white flour. How could this be happening? Carol has fallen into the concentration trap. Each muffin, containing the equivalent of 1 or 2 full dates, is a potent sugar delivery vehicle. Her body is on a blood sugar roller coaster every afternoon, and she misinterprets the crash as simple fatigue. She doesn't see the connection, and more importantly, she doesn't understand that her well-intentioned baking habit is contributing to the very long-term cognitive decline she wants so badly to prevent. So what's the empowering path forward? It's to reclassify dates in our minds. They are not a fruit to be eaten casually in large quantities. They are a potent sweetener to be used with respect and precision. Here's a simple rule. 1 is a treat, more is a flood. If you want to enjoy a date, have one. And as always, employ the buddy system. A fantastic way to eat a date is to slice it open, remove the pit, and stuff it with a walnut or an almond. The fat and protein from the nut provide a powerful buffer against the sugar rush, turning a metabolic crisis into a balanced, manageable snack. When you're baking, be mindful. Using 2 chopped dates to add a touch of sweetness to an entire loaf of bread is very different from using 10 to sweeten a batch of 6 muffins. Context and quantity are everything. Our 5th and final fruit is perhaps the most surprising of all. It is the quintessential symbol of summer, a hydrating hero on a hot day, and something we associate with pure, refreshing innocence. It is over 90% water, after all. How could it possibly be a threat? We are talking about watermelon. This is where we need to get just a little bit more sophisticated in our understanding of blood sugar, and I promise to make it simple. So far, we've focused on the glycemic index, GI, which, as you'll remember, is the speed at which a food's sugar hits the bloodstream. Watermelon has a very high glycemic index, typically scoring around 72 to 80, which is right up there with some breakfast cereals and white bread. Its sugars are absorbed incredibly fast. But wait, you might say, how can that be if it's mostly water? And that's the right question to ask. This brings us to another concept called glycemic load, GL. Glycemic load takes the speed, the GI, and combines it with the actual amount of carbohydrates in a standard serving. Because watermelon is so watery, a small, single serving, say, 1 cup of diced cubes, doesn't contain that many grams of sugar. Therefore, a small serving has a low glycemic load. It's like a very fast car that only drives for 1 block. The impact is minimal. Herein lies the trap. When was the last time you ate just 1 single measured cup of watermelon at a family picnic? It almost never happens. We eat watermelon in giant, smiling wedges. We fill a big bowl with it. We go back for seconds and thirds because it feels so light and hydrating. And when we consume it in these larger, more realistic quantities, the low glycemic load becomes a very high glycemic load. You are now taking that very fast car and driving it for miles and miles. The sheer volume of what you're eating completely overrides the fact that it's watery. Let's go back to our river. A single cup of watermelon might be a small bucket of water tossed in a quick splash, but the river handles it. Eating a huge wedge of watermelon is like having 10 people all toss in a bucket at the exact same time. The cumulative effect is a sudden, significant flood. And what follows a flood? The insulin emergency response. The potential for a sugar crash. And most critically for our topic today, that golden opportunity for the circulating sugar to create those AGEs, our artery stiffening superglue, which works silently to compromise the blood flow to our brain. Let's picture a classic summer barbecue. Frank, a grandfather in his early 70s, is there with his whole family. He's been watching his diet, so he proudly skips the potato salad and the cheesy burgers in favor of a big plate of grilled chicken and greens. For dessert, while everyone else eats brownies, he makes the healthy choice. He grabs a massive, sweet, juicy wedge of red watermelon, and then another. He feels great about his decision. He's hydrating, he's eating fruit, he's being good. An hour later, Frank is snoozing in a lawn chair. His grandkids try to wake him up to play, but he just feels overwhelmingly drowsy and heavy. The family chuckles and says, "Grandpa's tuckered out." Frank just blames it on the sun and the food. But it's not just being tuckered out. It was the massive, concentrated sugar hit from those 2 huge wedges of watermelon. His body experienced a dramatic blood sugar spike and the inevitable energy-sapping crash that followed. And quietly, invisibly, that choice contributed more of those AGEs to the lining of his arteries than the brownie might have, because he ate so much of it. The empowering solution is not to fear watermelon. It's to respect its power. The key is mindful portioning. Enjoy a slice, not the entire quarter melon. A standard serving is about a 1-inch thick wedge or a cup of diced cubes. Treat it like a special dessert, not an all-you-can-eat buffet item. And whenever possible, stick to our master rule, the buddy system. Have your slice of watermelon after you've eaten your meal of protein and healthy fats. The food already in your stomach will act as a buffer, slowing the release of the watermelon sugar and preventing that dramatic spike. This simple shift in timing and quantity transforms watermelon from a potential brain artery threat back into the refreshing, hydrating summer treat it's meant to be. So, we've looked at grapes, ripe bananas, pineapple, dates, and now watermelon. Each one, a beautiful gift from nature. But as we've seen, the hidden danger isn't in the fruit itself, but in the rapid, overwhelming sugar spike it can unleash. Now, I know this might feel like a lot to remember, a new set of rules to follow. But I want to pull all of this together now, not into a list of don'ts, but into a powerful, liberating philosophy for eating that puts you back in the driver's seat of your health. We've just spent the last 20 minutes or so dissecting 5 fruits: grapes, ripe bananas, pineapple, dates, and watermelon. It would be very easy to walk away from this conversation with a sense of restriction, a feeling that your food world has just gotten a little smaller, a little more complicated. But I am begging you not to see it that way. This was never about creating a list of forbidden foods. This was about handing you a key. The key is understanding that the true enemy to your brain's vitality isn't a piece of fruit. The true enemy is a blood sugar roller coaster. It's the violent spikes and the crashing lows, day after day, that create the environment for inflammation and damage. The fruits we discussed are simply some of the most common and most cleverly disguised triggers for that roller coaster. So, the lesson here isn't never eat a banana. The lesson is never send a sugar molecule into your bloodstream alone. It needs a chaperone. It needs a buddy. That buddy is protein, fat, or fiber. When you understand this single powerful principle, you are no longer a victim of a food's glycemic index. You become the conductor of your own metabolic orchestra. Think about what this means. It's a shift from fear to strategy. It's moving from a mindset of, what can't I have, to, how can I have this wisely? You can absolutely enjoy a small handful of sweet grapes, as long as you pair them with a few savory walnuts. You can savor a few chunks of juicy pineapple after a protein-rich meal. You can use a single date to sweeten your oatmeal, as long as that oatmeal also contains chia seeds and a scoop of almond butter. This knowledge doesn't shrink your world, it expands your control over it. It empowers you to protect your most valuable asset, that beautiful, vibrant mind filled with a lifetime of memories, wisdom, and love. Protecting it isn't about deprivation. It's about intelligent choices, one plate at a time. It's about being mindful and intentional, transforming every meal into an opportunity to nourish and defend your brain, ensuring it stays as sharp, clear, and resilient as you are. If this conversation has shed some new light on how you think about your food and your health, please consider helping us spread this vital information by giving this video a thumbs up by clicking that like button. It truly helps this message reach more people who need to hear it. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe and join our community. We are on this journey of healthy, empowered aging together, and I want you to be a part of it. Your presence here matters. Thank you so much for your time and your trust today. Be mindful, be strategic, and be well. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.